Hey guys, welcome back to Z's Corner. This is Al. So we just finished our second Incursions event, and as you can see up top, we were against server 36. And we ended up winning by a pretty significant margin. And just a quick note, the numbers are incorrect. I think a few numbers got truncated from our score. Basically, don't look at the numbers, look at the bar, the slider, to kind of get a sense for how we did. So, we won by a significant margin. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was basically that the event is really skewed towards rating. So one of the primary reasons why we won against 36 wasn't because overall we did much better. I think it was because we had a really strong start to the game. So from a strategy standpoint, what we ended up doing as a server was that right as the event started, a bunch of us jumped over to the opponent's server. So regardless of attack or defense type of events, we jumped over. And because we just jumped over really early and we had a lot of players over there, we got, I'd say, at least two larger targets that I know of. One was an Ops 54 player. The other was an Ops 49 player. And we were able to raid them for a significant amount of resources. And because we got out to such a huge advantage in the beginning, it didn't really matter what 36 did overall. I mean, they rallied really hardly because after about 2 or 3 p.m., so after the first 2 or 3 hours, basically server 36, everybody was shielded, and all of their whales were actually on server 40. And from about 2 to 3 p.m. for the rest of that time frame, the rest of 20, 21 hours left on the event, we had our hands full back on server 40 defending. We had a lot of folks which did not defend or which did not shield very well throughout the event. But fortunately for us, it wasn't our whales. You know what I mean? So, that was one of the biggest things because, two of their larger players on 36 forgot a shield. Within the first hour or so, this entire event was decided. And from a future change standpoint, that's one of the things I wanted to bring up as well. We got to look at ways to make hull damage score more so that it's just not as dependent on 1 or 2 players kind of dropping the ball and losing the entire event for the server. So that's something that I wanted to kind of put out in the forefront. And, my layout this time is going to be a bit changed. I'm not really going to show a PowerPoint. I do kind of have a PowerPoint on my other computer that I'll look to just as guidance. But right now we're going to focus on basically I've got 5 videos that I recorded from the event, and I want to kind of go through some of those videos because I got some really good learnings from that overall. So, props to 36. 36 is a bit older than us in terms of server age. They've got about 6 months on us. However, they don't have any Ops 60 players. They only have an Ops 58 and Ops 57 being their top 2 players. Whereas we have 3 Ops 60 players. So, aside from that, I'd say, we have a bit more players over on 40. 36, I think, is smaller, but, they're very well seasoned. They were really, really good from a tactical standpoint as they were charging back towards the back half of the event, because they had a lot of whales, or their whales were really supporting their mid-40s, and they were doing significant damage. And because they were invading us, their mid-40 folks that didn't even shield, so they had really good face defense. So, a couple of you guys from 36 told me you watched my videos too, so thank you for doing that, and hopefully the base defense video helped you guys out a bit. But yeah, no, their mid-40s, they didn't really shield. Even when our 60s were there, they'd rather take the damage and get the whole damage points as an invader, and to help their server score overall, as opposed to shielding. And that's something that to be honest, I don't think a lot of our server 40 folks have really recognized yet. So that's something that is a shout out to 36 for having such well-disciplined and seasoned veterans. Unfortunately for you guys, you lost mainly because 2 or 3 of your guys didn't shield well at the beginning of the event. And that really was the deciding factor. So without further ado, let's kind of look at some of the videos that I recorded in terms of the PvP action. All right, so this first video is really my alliance basically hitting one of their larger players. It's an Ops 49 guy. We got him in the beginning, 5 to 10 minutes of the event even, and we raided him for about, I think, an hour or so before he got online and shielded. This was a lot of points for us in terms of a server to be able to hit an Ops 49 person with, I think it was like 100 and something or 200 billion in resources, total resources. And I think we got maybe a third of it or so in total in that time frame. So I won't talk too much anymore, but we can take a look at the action here. And you can see we've got a good 12 or 13 guys from Borg, my alliance on server 40, raiding this poor guy. You can see some of the action happening. You can see all the malls kind of clustered up there. Basically, we have a tactic. I'm going to pause it real quick. Basically, we have a tactic where if we have 4 or more players raiding a person, then we do something called a swarm. And because when you do a swarm, when you're raiding, what you'll see is that if you have enough folks on, sometimes it kind of tricks the server, and you get 2 or 3 hits at the same time going on the same station. So that's a really good raiding tactic for you guys to know. All right, so maybe I was a little bit misguided in terms of total resources. It looks like he has about 100 billion, but still, that's still a pretty significant amount for us. A lot of trite, and this was after I think we had been going for a while, actually. So he probably had more than this, 120, because I was getting about 150, 160 million per pull on my max them all. In the beginning, and towards the end, I think we were down to like 110, 120 type pull per pull. So take a look at, I guess, the action here. We'll keep rolling. You can see our guys are swarming. We've got folks on a different planet coming in. We're hitting continuously. I don't know if we actually got an action shot where we had multiple ones hitting at the same time, but it does work, as you can see. Yeah, right there you can see multiple guys hitting, and they're actually getting resources from all of them at once. So, this is one of the things I was going to talk that we had just covered, basically, and that's kind of what I got for a pull, 130 million. So, basically this was happening at the same time as one of our other alliances, our big alliance on server 40, Anti, was able to kind of hit an Ops 54 guy with trillions. And resources, and that was really unfortunate for server 36. It was basically because of these type of instances in the beginning, the very first beginning part of the event, that they lost. All right, so this is going to be a series. The first fight I lost, and the second fight I won, which I was just showing. I wanted to show you basically how to hit up against a higher ops and a higher tiered ship. So I'm going with the triangle, so I do have that advantage. But notice that I've got a tier 4 Clefson Peck, and then Moby here's got a tier 6 Sanctus. So the first fight, I've got my default crew on with the anti-hit crew, TOS O'Hara with TOS Kirk, as well as HG Wolf to kind of proc critical hits. Unfortunately for me, with this first fight, I was not able to win just because I think it's just he's way too big, too big for me to kind of hit with this type of crew, because I wasn't getting enough damage in, basically, without Hope Reach proccing. So Moby's got Yuki captain, which always helps, because Yuki, with especially with synergy from Harrison, she's taking out my shield at 15% per turn, and HE Worf helping to do some critical hits. And of course Harrison I think was a tier 4, so he does 90% shield ignore in round 1, and that really helps him because he can get some pretty big hits in the first round. So let's take a look at the video. All right, so you see here that I'm doing decent damage, 12 million. So I'm doing significant amounts of hull damage to him. He's not doing quite as much to me, even with Harrison, because he doesn't have our counter officer on here right now. So my anti-critical hit is really helping me a lot in this scenario right now. So you can see we're going to keep continuing. I'm just doing a lot more damage to him. The biggest issue is that because he's 2 tiers above me, he's got a lot more hull health than I do. So basically here I got unlucky round 4 because he got critical hits in, and that hurt me significantly. Over here, we're back to normal where he doesn't have critical hits. I'm still doing crits, and we're going to keep going until the end, and I blow up when he gets his critical hits in round 6. All right, so if we look at the info stats right here, you can see he's got a lot more damage and health So I'm going to pause it right now. All right, so right here, you see me on the left. I've got 62 million in health, in shield health. He's got more shield health than me on Interceptor, which is kind of crazy. But you know, it's 2 tiers above. It's 85 million in shield health, and I've got only 70 million in hull health, whereas EA has 124 million. So you know, that's almost double my hull health, and that's really what kind of killed me with my crewing on that in that scenario. So definitely the anti-critical hit is great, but I'm not doing enough damage to Moby to kind of offset that. So let's take a look at the second battle log. All right, so this is the second fight where I recrewed, and you can see that Moby did not change his crew, and it's really a huge difference in regards to what happened. I still have about half of my hull left when I killed Moby, and one of the primary reasons is that, you know, I said, you know, forget anti-critical hit. I'm just going to go with as much damage as I possibly can, and, you know, I've got Lorca Captain, so Lorca Captain is going to help me a little bit in kind of mitigating his damage, but I've got my counter officer here with Khan, and I got my HJ Worf here as well, just for the critical hits. So, you know, let's take a look at the battle log now. All right, so right off the bat, you can see I'm doing a lot more damage. So whereas I was doing, you know, 12, I think it was 12 or 13 million damage, now I'm up to over 30 million damage with the hull breach proc. So that's going to hurt him significantly. In addition, you know, I've got Kane on my ship, so the counter officer is correct, and I'm just dealing more significant hull damage here as well. So over 4 million, whereas before I was doing maybe 2.5 million. All right, so right here, Moby got a little bit unlucky because he wasn't really proccing as much critical hits. As you can tell, you know, out of these, he's got 1, 2, right off the bat that he didn't proc critical hits on. So where he is getting critical hits, he's doing a lot of hull damage in round 1 just because he's got Harrison on, remember. One of the things is that, unfortunately, the Sanctus doesn't really hit that hard. So right here, even in the beginning of round 2, you see that I'm actually still doing the, you know, 29, 31 million hits. And right off the bat, with one of my first hits in round 2, I've actually depleted his shield. So now after that, it's basically just gonna go straight to hull, and you can see I'm doing 24 million damage to his hull by the second shot in round 2, and that's really one of the primary difference makers. Again, a bit unlucky in his shots. 2 of the 3 in round 2, he did not proc critical hits. So continuing on, you can see that now it's basically a damage equation issue, and I just do damage quicker than he does. Now, what I'll say on this is that if Moby had used Marcus instead of Yuki, this might have been a completely different picture. I think I could have done pretty well. I'm just not exactly sure that I would have won, because he would have been able to do a lot more damage directly to my hull. So just FYI, if Moby had changed Harrison to Marcus, I think it would have been pretty even, and I may or may not have won. All right, so the fight I've got pulled up on this right now is between the G4 ships. And this is one of the things I'm going to say about the Hecata, which I was referring to in the firing patterns video right before this, is that the problem with the Klingon epic ships is that they're really easily countered with TOS Uhura. So if you have one ship and you have one primary ship, it's an explorer, and you're fighting any type of Klingon epic type ship. Klingon epics are all interceptors anyway, so if you're fighting the Klingon interceptors, you know, remember, if you have your TOS Uhura crew on with TOS Kirk and you have HJ Worf, there's almost nothing he can do. So, you know I've got a huge Coronar, so I've got a tier 10 Coronar versus Rectangle's tier 5 Hecata, but even still, it's a rare versus an epic, and this is really exposing the weakness of that Hecata. So, you know, he's got the Lorca Captain here to kind of help prevent or help mitigate a little bit of damage. He's got Marcus, which is correct, because Marcus is helping penetrate my shields, and then he's got HJ Worf for the critical hits. But, you know, basically my one crew with TOS Uhura Captain is negating both Lorca and HJ Worf here. So he's still getting the bonus from his ship ability, basically, of having increased chances for critical hit, but because of TOS Uhura, that really doesn't really matter in this case, and it comes down to a damage equation scenario. So let's take a look at the ship stats real quick. All right, so in terms of ship stats, you can see with my really big Corey, I've got actually a bit more damage than he does on the Hecata, which is one of the other issues with interceptors in general. So I've got a bit more attack overall. I've got a little bit more defense. but he's got a bit more health because he's got an epic ship compared to my, compared to my rare. So right here, actually, though, because of rounding, I guess, you can see the damage per round is basically the same. So not much really to say about defense. I think defense, it's almost the same, just different factors. Let's look at the health. So he's got a bit more shields than me, 17 million versus 16 million. And he's got about, 7 million more hull health than me. So not quite a third, but, 20-25% more hull health than what I have. However, the biggest weakness on the Hecata is because he can't, because I have got TOS Hargat, then his damage is just not there. And we'll see that right now. All right, so here you see everything proccing. You see I'm actually hitting pretty hard, 7 million damage on the Quarry. I don't even have proc TOS Rohara in the first round yet. Even in the first round, if you remember back to firing pattern, the Hecata only fires like 3 rounds or something, or 3 shots, and they are not really big shots. So where I'm doing 7 million in critical hits, his is only doing 2.4 million critical hits, and his regular hits are only 580,000, 600,000 type damage. So those are not really that significant. So if we continue on in round 2, you see O'Hara kicks in and his damage output just drops significantly. I'm still doing about 2.2, 2.5 million. His, without critical hits, 600 something thousand. Even though you're going to hit me a lot at that point, my Quarry hits really hard. So 6+ million damage here. It's just the damage output is just too significantly disadvantaged for the Hecata for him to win. So even though he does get through my shields, wow, it looks like round 3 I actually got unlucky with TOS O'Hara not proccing either because he's got some critical hits in there. So even with that, by round 4, in the beginning of round 4, I managed to destroy the Hecata before it's even able to fire. So that's just something I wanted to show you guys, to show, basically, I guess, interceptors. I might do a video later on. I just feel like interceptors are kind of broken right now based off of some of the performances today, and we'll look at that right now as well. All right, so this is why I think interceptors are broken. So if you look at my crew, I've got as strong as I can go with anti-Battleship, and then Episode X, he's got a decent, I would not probably use Captain Tilly on the G5 or G4 ships, to be honest with you, or well, maybe G4 but not G5, but he's got a decent crew here to target, interceptors. And we're both tier 4, though. That's one of the biggest things. Yes, Episode X has got 2 ops levels on me, so he's probably got more research, better buildings, and things like that. And I don't know if his Crozier is upgraded or not. My Sanctus right now is basically what I call a naked tier 4, so it doesn't have anything for that tier. Episode X might have had, some weapons or shields or hull upgrades that I'm not aware of on his Crozier. So, but regardless, I mean, they're the same tier. I've got, with Wharf Captain, if you remember, I get more armor piercing per hit with Wharf Captain. I've got Charvonic here to do 1,600%, armor pierce. And then I've got Lorca here to kind of proc, to help with, HE Wharf to proc Hull Breach to get more damage in. And I lose. It's not by a little bit. I lose significantly. And this is where I have some issues. So let's look at the stats real quick, and then we'll take a look at the battle log. All right, so right off the bat, if you look at the top numbers, I mean, the attack, guys, this doesn't make sense to me at all, because an interceptor should be a smaller, delicate ship that hits hard. A battleship should be big with a lot of health. It does have a lot of health, right? But it should not, hit that hard. Yet his attack is, wow, it's like, almost double, not quite double of mine. So it's got more shield and hull, and it hits harder. So no wonder my interceptor is going to die. So let's look at some of the detailed stats right here. So he's got about 37 million damage per round. That is really crazy on that Crozier. His defense is probably on par with mine, I think. And then all right, so his hull health and shield health, 69 million shield health, 107 million hull health. You can see, whereas he was at 30-something million, 37 million per round. I'm only at 22 million per round in terms of damage. And if we continue, I think defense was pretty much balanced between the two, which is fine. And then here's a huge gap on the health stats. So he's got, on a battleship which supposedly has less shields, but because he's Federation, he has a bit more shields. He's got better shields than I do. On his hull, which is fine, he's got a lot more hull health than I do. Not a lot more, he's got a little bit more, like 25-30% more hull health than I do, which is fine. But it's this combination of me having less shield and less hull plus less damage that really does me in. And we can look at the battle logs to kind of show that. All right, so here I'm going to pause. You look and you see that I'm doing about 12.7 million, 12.2 million in damage to the Crozier. So I'm hitting quite a bit, 12, 12, 12. So he did not critical hit on the first two shots. They're, 8.8, 9.6. Those are his small guns, though. Look at his big guns. That is crazy to me. A big gun trading for about 35 million. If both of those things at critical hit me, those two big guns alone would have been as much or more than all of my guns firing in round 1. So this is round 2. I mean, he doesn't have HE Warp, so he's not going to critical hit as much as I am. I'm critical hitting everything basically, but he got a few critical hits from his big guns, and that's really what did me in. Really, 30 plus million damage. So if we can continue to look at this, I'm doing damage, and then boof, these critical hits right here killed me. 26, 20, 23. So I can say that I probably got a little bit unlucky, but I can't say that because I think I have a few more battle logs where I was losing to the type of crew from episode X, and just seeing that really made me a little bit, I guess, regret getting the Sanctus as well. And it's kind of turn me to be into like biased against interceptors. So I think I'll do another video on that, because I honestly, if I think about it now, I can't think of any interceptors I really like besides the Saladin. So I don't like the D4 that much. The Pylum in the previous video I said it was pretty bad. The Kelvin previous video I said it was pretty bad. The Hegatha I just said was pretty bad. The Northcut I always was able to kill real easily with my Corvus. And now I've got a Sanctus, and the Sanctus has performed fairly poorly as well. So I don't know. We'll probably look at a video at some point in the future talking about why interceptors are not very good. All right, so kind of trending on that topic or / rant, I wanted to show you this fight. I was fighting against a 55 with a very decent powered Corvus here in my Sanctus, and I wanted to show this because I lost. And it's not because I want to show this, not because I lost, but because he was supported by a Cerritos. So we haven't really focused much on the Cerritos, but the Cerritos, when it's actually supporting ships, it can actually change the picture around. And this is one of the, and that's really why I wanted to show this video. So, I don't have the best crew here. I have Martok kind of to counter. Well, he doesn't even have Kang on. He has Marcus on, so he's got the wrong counter officer, and I still lost. So I mean, I guess that says something about, one, Corvuses, and two, having a Cerritos support. But really this was kind of to counter his accuracy gauge. So I've got Yuki, which kind of helps with a little bit of damage, increased damage against the Corvus, but also more importantly the shield drain. And I've got a Marcus here to kind of help attack the Explorer, which is the Corvus. So if we look at this, I don't know if we look at the stats. I think we do. Yes. So basically two tier 4 ships. They're same. I've got more across the board of everything: attack, defense, and health. Yet I lose. So we'll look at the reasons for that in a bit. And it's going to be mostly because of the Cerritos boosting. I didn't really boost my ships. So here we'll look at the most important stats, which is basically health. You see, I have significant more hull health than E double up does. So I've got about like 50% more hull health, and I've got maybe 25% more shield health. So statistically I should win. However, I don't. I lose. And why is that? If we look in here, so you see the officers are proccing. I'm doing decent damage, 7.8 million. I'm doing decent hull health damage. And he is doing decent critical hits, 11 million damage here. He's doing less hull damage to me because he does not have to correct counter officer here. So let's continue to look and see how we do. So I don't have HE Warp on this ship, so I'm not going to be critical hitting as much. And I think that's going to be the primary factor here. I'm just not damaging as much, as I just don't do as much damage as the Corvus in my hits here. And one of the big reasons behind that is probably because he's got a lot of boosting that's kind of hidden in these numbers from the Cerritos. So if we continue on this, you guys can see that basically I just get out damage. It only goes for 6 rounds, so not too many. So I guess the moral of the story is, if you are not boosting with your Cerritos in PvP, you should really do it, because it really allows you to destroy ships that you shouldn't be able to do. So again, this is kind of the same story. I lost against a tier 3 Corvus, which was boosted and very well crewed. Basically anti-critical hits with critical hits. You know, basically counters, you know, 2 of my 3 officers right here. I've got Lorca Captain here. I've got Khan. Khan, you know, I had H.G. Worf, I think, on some other ship. So regardless, even if I had H.G. Worf, I don't think this would have changed the outcome. He barely got damaged in this fight, as you can see. So, I mean, if we kind of look through this, the health stats and all the stats are not going to really matter that much, because I definitely outclass a tier 3 Corvus here. So let's wait for the hull health stats and shield health stats. You can see same story, a lot more hull and shield health, yet the boosting is really doing a heck of a number against my Sanctus. So if we look at the damage, you know, he's not doing as much because his is a tier 3, but I'm not doing critical hits. So when I'm not doing critical hits, I'm doing a lot less hull health damage than he's doing to me. So this is going to be over in, again, 6 rounds, and we won't look through all of this, but basically it's just more of the same story as I was talking about before. All right, so here's the same fight again. He's still boosted, and I changed on my crew, and because I changed on my crew here, I was able to win. So, you know, I'm saying, hey, I'm not going to do critical hits anyway, so let's forget critical hits and let's just cut through his shields really quick. So I've got Marcus and Yuki here combo, so 15% per turn on shield health damage. I am boosting my mitigation with Martok here to counter the natural, you know, accuracy of the Corvus, and this kind of completely changes the picture. Even though he was boosted, I only lost about half of my hull. I shouldn't say that's still a lot of hull that I lost, and it's just not good. But you know, it's still it's just a result of that Cerritos boosting that folks should remember to use. So let's look at the battle logs real quick, just to kind of confirm everything. All right, so you can see here that I'm actually doing, I'm actually receiving quite a bit of hull damage from that Corvus. So about 900,000 to 1 million when he's critical hitting, 300-something thousand when he's not critical hitting. I'm of course not doing critical hits because he's got TOS or higher captain. However, I'm still doing decent, hull damage, 576,000, 538,000, so around 550,000 on average. And because I fire more in general, so I think on a per round basis, my hull damage against that Corvus is about the same. And remember, I have a lot more hull, and this was one of the reasons why I win. Also with Yuki Captain, I'm just eating through shields quickly. And let's see when I actually managed to cut through shields. This is round 3. I'm still not through shields. We're going to continue on. So in here, round 5. Round 5, you see that I depleted shields, and after his shields are gone, he's going to go down pretty quickly. So we go a few more rounds. So I just lose my shields, and then I manage to critical hit, and the Corvus is destroyed. So basically, the suggestion here is: 1, if you have a Cerritos, do not forget to use it. Definitely use it. Again, it really helps you to hit up. 2. If you are going against a TOS Uhara captain type crew, a really good counter to that is basically having Yuki. The faster you're able to eat through those shields, the more damage to your hull, to the hull you're going to be able to do. So Harrison in certain scenarios would probably work really well as well, but definitely Yuki as captain is going to help you a lot when you're facing a TOS Uhara captain type crew. All right, so with that, that's really it for round 2 of Incursions. Again, Server 36, it was really fun to fight you guys. I think you guys really pulled through towards actually most of the event. You guys actually did much better than I think we did. It's just that from from our server, from a strategy standpoint, we actually did the right thing. We consciously made a choice to kind of have a lot of people, or as many people as we can, invade the beginning parts of the event, and because of that, we were able to catch a couple of your bigger players and to raid them basically, and because of that we won the event. Thanks for tuning in, and if you have any comments, please leave them below. If you're not a subscriber, please hit the subscribe button. Thanks again. Take care. Bye bye.